Easy come, easy go, little high, little low.
We can't do this. Not now.
Well, hello, internet passers-by, and welcome back to Nap. Once again, it's just myself and Shaun. Melina's still on holiday.
Yeah, it's just us two.
Yes.
The boys' club.
I say she's on holiday, she's visiting home.
Yeah, it's not exactly a holiday if it's going home.
Yeah, actually, that's something I'm curious about, because Melina lives here now in Scotland. I wonder what she considers home.
I imagine it's a mix of the two.
Yeah, because she keeps moving around.
Yeah.
Or she did. She moved, for context, she lived in the US for a bit. I don't know if we've mentioned this in the podcast before.
Yeah, it probably explains the accent.
Yeah. She lived in the US for about 9 months.
I think we did talk about this in the first ep.
Possibly, yeah.
Because, like, she talks about how she was there to grab some stuff in, like, a Starbucks or something. Like, when she went there.
Yeah. There was a...
I'm probably tying this horribly.
There was a cafe, I want to say, where she got a bagel with
it was so much cream
of
cheese.
Yeah. Of course, Melina is...
Anyway.
She's
not here.
No, she's not here.
She can't defend herself.
No, so it's just us two. After the last episode that we did together, we're gonna go for a bit more lighthearted.
Yeah,
topic.
let's go back to our regularly scheduled nonsense.
Yes. What we talked about was very much important and had to be discussed. But,
absolutely. But we're past that now.
We're past
we got
it
it out of our system.
Yes.
Time to continue.
Yeah, for once coming into Nap, we kind of don't have
a plan.
No, normally when we come
basic idea, but
normally when we come into these, we have like a topic that we're going to discuss, or we have like a general idea of the running order. But hopefully, Roe v. Wade conversation went well. It wasn't generally structured, so hopefully this can be a nice precedent setter of.
We hope.
Just coming in and talking, because I like the list of topics that we're steadily growing that we want to discuss.
Yeah.
But just being able to chat.
Yeah, just off the cuff. Talk about what comes to our heads.
Yeah.
Probably video games.
Yeah, for us that's kind of a default topic.
Yeah.
But before we kind of discuss video games, have you been watching anything recently?
Well, actually, now that you've said that, I have just started currently watching Punisher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've only watched the first episode so far, and since it's 2 episodes, 13 episodes each, it'll probably take me a bit because I'm watching it with
Your
my
mum.
mum. Yeah. It sounds weird when I say it like that, but we're both Marvel nerds. We've watched a lot of the Defender stuff already. Punisher just made sense. So
yeah.
First episode went pretty well, actually.
I think I did watch some of the first season of Punisher. I think I maybe got 4 or 5 episodes in. And I did enjoy it. It was just I kind of bounced off the Netflix stuff the first time round.
That's fair. I mean, the Netflix stuff is kind of harder to get into.
Yeah, I think Jessica Jones was the only one that I watched all the way through. I say that at the time season 2 wasn't out, because that was like, other than Daredevil, the only one to get a second season, and even then,
the second season of Jessica Jones, from what I hear, isn't that great.
I didn't really get the point of doing a season 2, because they kind of concluded the storyline, and while I get TV does generally have a storyline within each season, Kilgore was like her Kilgrave, sorry. I'm thinking of sorry, I was at work yesterday and there was a name Kilgore on one of the parcels. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Mr. Kilgore.
It's probably pronounced Kilgore.
Who cares? Kilgore.
But still. Kilgrave. It's kind of like Jessica Jones's
Nemesis?
That's her villain. It's kind of like...
It did feel very personal in that season, so I don't know how they'd pick that up, and I'm not sure they really did.
From what I recall, I don't think they did. I made it 3 episodes in.
Yeah.
And I didn't really jive with the direction of the story. It kind of has Jessica in even more of a self-pitying state than the first season.
Yeah.
Which wasn't great, because, it kind of feels like a step backwards.
Yeah, because, like, I like Jessica Jones, but she's sort of not changed at all.
No.
Like, throughout her entire time as a character in, like, her show. So it's hard to get into a character that doesn't improve.
I mean, maybe they did improve her further into season 2. But
Yeah, like we're saying that we didn't watch that
Yeah.
full season, and I've not even started it. So
yeah, I intend to go back and watch the net. I was gonna call it Netflix stuff. It's no longer on Netflix now.
no, but I mean the Defenders saga.
Yeah, the Defenders saga.
You absolutely should, by the way, because Daredevil season 3 is awesome.
Yeah, I'll get to
It's
it
way
eventually.
better than the first 2 seasons.
I was gonna say, because I wasn't keen on the first 2 seasons, and it kind of
I get that.
set that I probably wasn't gonna enjoy much of the Defenders stuff.
I mean, I surprisingly liked Defenders. Even to give context, before Defenders, I watched Daredevil's season 1 and 2, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage. I skipped Iron Fist because I just heard bad things.
Yeah.
And having seen Defenders, I don't really feel a push to watch Iron Fist. Maybe a bit more because Danny Rand's sort of the MacGuffin of that series.
Yeah.
Spoilers, by the way, for these series, by the way, because I'm just gonna not so far to like spoil Michael, but I will be going into some things about this. In Defenders, it's sort of focused around him and the Iron Fist
Yeah, I've
area,
heard
which
that.
makes no fucking sense since it's the one everyone likes the least.
Yeah.
So, but he's sort of like the MacGuffin of that whole series. And it is kind of funny seeing how Danny Rand as a character is so fucking not pathetic, but like he's clearly on another level compared to like every other character there,
Yeah.
because throughout the entirety of the show you've basically got Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage all just being like, oh, I don't want to do this shit. What the fuck is this? And Danny's like, no, I must do this. I am the immortal Iron Fist. And he's so serious about it in exactly that tone. It's funny
It's
to watch.
almost like Batfleck.
A little bit, yeah.
And Justice League.
Yeah.
He's so committed to the idea, and everyone's like, why are we here?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, they didn't really set... I mean, the other characters appear in each other's show before Defenders, but they don't really set them up to be a team.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, Avengers was sort of similar. But that sort of managed to work it in well, that they still managed to work well.
Yeah, because that was sort of the... No, not the undercurrent, but the,
They were being pointed in that direction.
yeah, that
at
was the
least.
direction that story was going. Is it's like, this is all these characters that individually can do great things, but if they're together, they can do even greater and
They
defend
are
the world.
Earth's mightiest
Earth's
heroes.
mightiest heroes. So there's the implication that they're gonna have to figure a way out to work with each other. But the Defenders doesn't seem primed to do any of that.
It's more like they have, and like their normal TV shows, like they have their own set in stone like stories.
Yeah.
The characters can maybe pop up because Luke Cage pops up in Jessica Jones, and he's pretty important in that
Yeah.
story. But in Defenders itself, it's like we've been mandated to be together.
Yeah, and it's like, it almost kind of feels like, oh well, all you guys are in the same area, you might as well link up and do something. Because like the Netflix shows made a point of being like, they're all in Hell's Kitchen. It's like, or at least
New York, absolutely, but like
Yeah.
Manhattan, because I don't know where Jessica is. I don't think it's Hell's Kitchen.
is it not Hell's Kitchen? I thought it was.
No, and Luke Cage is very, very much a point in Harlem.
Ah, okay.
Like, that's the whole show.
Fair.
So, yeah, and I don't know where the fuck Danny is, and I don't give a shit.
Well, I mean, then it's pretty much they're all just in New York, so they might as well.
Actually, if we're going by Defenders, I don't think Danny's in New York that much.
Danny doesn't fucking matter though.
Yeah, I mean, apparently he does, though.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
The show wants you to think he matters.
Sure, he's the reason they get together. So
Yeah.
like, where he is doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're all in New York, so they might as well.
Yeah. And to be fair, it becomes more the Daredevil and Jessica Jones show as it goes on.
That's actually my thing. What is Marvel's obsession with New York?
This goes back to the comics as well, so this is like
Yeah,
a
because
deep thing.
and it's not even just Marvel. Even though they're called different things, DC does it as well. Metropolis is New York by day, and Gotham's
New York
not
by
by
night.
night.
I think it's because, like, probably most like the publishers and stuff like were based there and all that, so they knew what to like write on and all that. So it's probably just that sort of practical thing.
Yeah.
I mean, famously in the comics, there's the West Coast Avengers, which is like San Francisco, which in the MCU is basically Ant-Man's domain.
Yeah, and we kind of barely touch upon that other than Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
Avengers, the game kind of deals with that a little bit.
Kinda, but like everything in that game, it's half-baked.
Yeah. Because none of the locations are memorable.
You get past their story mission, and they're basically just a point on a map.
Yeah.
To get, like, Radiant Mission number 4556.
Yeah, because you can't even revisit campaign missions.
No. Which is sad, because Avengers has a sort of decent campaign.
Like, I didn't quite get what people disliked about the game when I played it.
Yeah.
And then I hit the part where it opens up.
Yeah.
And I went,
then
I get it. Yeah. You're kind of railroaded into grinding your way through the rest of the storyline at that point.
Yep.
I mean, at least all the expansions and stuff were free.
Yeah.
I still haven't played War for Wakanda though.
That one's alright.
Yeah, I have heard that.
We should do that in co-op at some point.
We should, yeah, because Wakanda was the first.
Yeah, I think like the opening mission is solo, but after that I know you can do co-op.
Nice. Yeah, I do need to go back and play that actually.
And apparently She-Hulk's coming out.
Oh, that's right. Soon. Yeah. Because they're still kind of committed to the game, I guess.
It's like to give an example, a Battlefront 2 EA sort of thing, where like, I think behind the scenes there's basically a skeleton crew there.
Oh, I imagine so.
Over, but they've completely lost faith in it.
Yeah, because Crystal Dynamics are working on something else at the moment. I feel like it's a project that's been announced, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
I don't think I know.
I remember seeing their name attached to something recently, and I'm like, okay, they're not a massive studio. I mean, they had to pull in a lot of help for Avengers.
Yeah, I mean, they had to make like, what, 5 separate studios?
Something like that. I know that some of the, was it the IDOS divisions were pulled in? I think IDOS Montreal got involved.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because they had prior experience in online games, whereas Crystal Dynamics were
yeah.
single player the whole way. You know, they were the Lara Croft the Tomb Raider reboots.
Yeah.
So yeah, odd game.
Yeah, it's such a strange little thing that came out.
But yeah, no. It's,
yeah.
Where do we go from there? The conversation
I don't know.
stalled.
Speaking of co-op stuff, do we want to jump into Halo? Because this is a topic I feel like we could talk about for a bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I played a bit of Infinite again. Is why I'm thinking this mainly. Like,
Yeah.
I did clean up because I forgot to clean some stuff up. Like when it came out a few months ago.
Fair. I haven't played a Halo since I finished Infinite.
Yeah,
it's been a while for me.
Fair. I also did jump back into MCC for a little bit just to kill some couple of hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I want to talk about Halo for a little
Sure,
bit.
yeah.
I mean, it's either that or Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I mean, should we talk about the new game announcements and then kind of lead into...
Yeah, that probably makes more sense.
Because this year's been weird.
It has been. I mean, E3's dead.
Yeah, and I think that's the weirdest part, is that everyone's kind of doing their own thing. But then you still had Summer Games Fest.
Which could have been like a sort of E3.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't.
No, it was a weird combination of things we'd already knew about. Because I've seen that Callisto Protocol trailer like 4 times. Just through different events that have announced it. In big air quotes. But it was like this weird combination of here's loads of new games. A bunch of space horror.
So much Dead Space.
So much Dead Space likes.
It was all Dead Space.
And then there were just so many games that, like, I went numb just watching a lot of that.
Yeah, same. It's a struggle to remember them.
Yeah,
like, right now.
It was very front loaded in terms of, like, there was a lot of announcements that I was like, yeah, I can get behind this, but a lot of the interesting ones were like very early in development. Like there was that other kind of Dead Space like game with Troy Baker.
Oh yeah. Because he popped up at one point.
Yeah, and the Roger guy, who neither of us knew, because it wasn't Roger Craig Smith. We know
No,
that much.
when we think Roger Guy in gaming, we immediately think Roger Craig
Yeah.
Smith, but it's not him.
No, because they didn't introduce him.
No.
They're just like, so we're here with Troy Baker.
And
he's-
Roger.
and he's talking, and he just goes, yeah, so me and Roger. And I'm like, who's Roger? Like, you can't do that.
You're not Sonic? I know my Sonic, you're not Sonic.
That looked interesting, but they mentioned that that's very much early in development. Like, I think mocap's done, but that's about as much as they've done, I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then it was a lot of kind of mobile games and not Switch games, because Nintendo did their own thing.
Yeah,
A lot of...
a mini direct about Xenoblade.
Oh, yeah, they did a full 30 minutes on Xenoblade. And I'm like, how do you do that without spoiling the game, really?
Very carefully.
Oh, probably. Then there's the Goat Sim 3 announcement.
Not 2, yeah.
Not 2.
I remember when we were both watching that, we were like, there was a Goat Sim 2.
Yeah. Which, as I found out looking into it,
No.
that's just their sense of humour. Whether you find that funny or not is up to you.
The fact that there's a Goat Sim sequel at all.
Oh, yeah, like, I totally did not see that coming.
Yeah, it's the fact that they parodied the Dead Island 2 trailer.
I was so annoyed.
You thought it was Dead Island.
I did. I was like, there's no fucking way that we're finally getting...
We're bringing that back from the dead.
Yeah, because
quite
I'm
literally.
like... I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, that looked better at the time, because it was pre-rendered CG. It wasn't like an engine footage or anything, because this was like mid or early gen, PS4 at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way that they're just gonna show that trailer again and go, it's still a thing. You can't do that, 7 or 8 years later and not give substantial information.
Yeah, exactly. At least show gameplay.
Yeah. I feel like Dead Island 2 is never gonna happen.
Yeah, like when you showed me that trailer and showed me like the day it came out, I was like, oh, this is dead.
Oh yeah,
This
like
is a dead game.
They kind of maintained for a while that it was going back, like, because it changed studio a couple of times. Because Technoland, they developed the original Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide, but they then moved on to do Dying Light.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
That's why Dying Light feels like the sequel to Dead Island. And in the time since they released Dying Light and Dying Light 2, Dead Island 2 was announced, changed developer, and then disappeared. It still hasn't come out.
Oh.
It's been a wild journey.
Rip Dead Island.
Oh yeah, it's fine, I think, because Dying Light kind of took up the spot. I still haven't played Dying Light 2. I'll need to get into that eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, Summer Games Fest was such a mixed bag, because it ended on The Last of Us Part 1 remake. A remake that's so unnecessary.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus, because no one really wants it.
No, and like some of the stuff they showed, it's like, well, there's a few cases where the PS4 remaster looks better.
Yeah.
And honestly, seeing Ellie's younger model for The Last of Us 2 in The Last of Us 1 was kind of jarring, because she looks a little different. And there's something about it that just doesn't fit for some reason. They're also charging full price for it.
Yeah.
It is a first-party Sony game, which means they're charging £70.
Yeah. 100 with the deluxe.
100 for the deluxe, which you only get a comic for.
Yeah.
And I don't think this comes with the DLC. I think you need to buy that separately, even though they showed the DLC in the announcement.
Which is absolute shit.
Yes. And then you had Troy Baker and the girl that plays Ellie talking about it for too long.
Yeah.
That was so uncharismatic. Oh, was Neil Druckmann there?
I don't know.
The guy, the lead for...
I don't remember.
Okay.
I know who he is, I just don't remember.
I feel like I seen him somewhere else, maybe.
He probably was.
Yeah, I feel like they spoke to him, but I saw them and it's like, they were so boring. They were so uncharismatic, and I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How? And then they started talking about the HBO show.
Oh yeah, I was about to bring this up because there's apparently a show that I didn't even know existed.
That's been in the works for a while. I didn't realise they'd got Craig Mazin for it. who wrote Chernobyl for
Ah.
HBO, which was a fantastic series.
Nice.
So I kind of have a little bit of hope for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see when it comes out.
There's also Pedro Pascal playing another pseudo dad character.
Yeah, he's playing. I think he might be playing Joel in the series.
From what I've seen, he's Joel.
Yeah, I don't know who's playing Ellie. I imagine it's probably like a young actress, so chances are
we probably don't know who she is.
But yeah,
hopefully that goes well.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it being a good show.
Yeah.
Maybe a little late in the vein of dark, grim, zombie post-apocalypse shows, because Walking Dead's been there, done that.
Yeah.
And a few others have as well. But it could be good.
Yeah.
And then we had the Assassin's Creed 15th anniversary stream.
Oh, we're going into it. We're going right into it.
Which was 6 minutes long of the actual...
It wasn't an announcement. It was an announcement.
No, it was an announcement. It was mostly DLC for Valhalla.
A game I've not played yet, and I don't really have an interest to.
Oh, I have it. I bought it for fairly cheap. And I still haven't played it, but mainly because I had been playing Odyssey, which will be a conversation at some point, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, it was so weird because they done all this stuff for Valhalla that I think most people won't care about outside of maybe the chapter that's going to close out the character's story.
Yeah.
Which I do have my questions about because there's like 3 DLCs, paid DLCs for that game now. So do you have to have played those?
I don't know.
To understand what's going on at that point?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised because it's Ubisoft. And then, they said, come back in September when we have more information.
Yeah, when we actually have something to announce.
Yeah, which I think will probably be Assassin's Creed Infinity.
Infinity or Nexus, whatever.
I think called. Nexus is as a mobile game or something. I've heard Nexus mentioned before. That seems to be something different from what people are saying Infinity is. And then, like, a week later, there was the Final Fantasy VII 25th celebration. And that totally blew the Assassin's Creed thing out of the water.
Yeah, that seemed like an actual... I'm not exactly a Final Fantasy fan, so I don't...
It was substantial, though.
That sounds like... From what I saw, it was pretty substantial.
Oh, yeah. Like, you have a celebration stream for one game doing twice the runtime of the one that was for an entire franchise.
Yeah, a 15-year-long franchise.
And they announced 3 separate games there. They announced Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion, which is the remake of Crisis Core from the PSP. Ever Crisis, which is a free-to-play mobile game that pulls in all of the different compilation of Final Fantasy VII stuff into one timeline. So it'll have Before Crisis, which was I think a mobile game released in Japan, and it came out in the time of Java mobile games, like flip phone slide ups.
I remember.
So it never came to the West because fairly esoteric thing. Then there's Crisis Core, because that's a prequel to Final Fantasy VII. The Final Fantasy VII storyline, I think Advent Children, and probably Dirge of Cerberus, which is a sequel PS2 game. And so that pulls in all of those and kind of tells it as one long cohesive story with sort of the same... From what I've seen of the trailer, it looks like the same styling as the original Final Fantasy VII, just with slightly higher quality models and stuff like that, because, they don't look as blocky as the actual Final Fantasy VII models from the original game.
Never forget.
And then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second installment, part 2 of the remake project, essentially.
Yeah.
Confusing, but I get what they're going for. Remake does as not just a title of remastering the game, works as like a theme for the game, because they're kind of working towards remaking their Destiny, and some of the stuff that happens in the original, I'm not sure if they're still gonna happen. I'm mainly thinking with Aerith.
Do we put a spoiler warning up here?
It's one of the more infamous things, or it's one of the more famous parts of video game history. It's that kind of urban legend of you can save her.
Yeah.
That's one of the big ones. But obviously in the original you can.
It was because Final Fantasy was definitely from an era where like those mysteries and rumors were widespread.
Yeah, you would have gaming magazines, publishing.
Well, not just that, the early internet.
And the early internet, it would go around the playground and stuff.
You can catch Mew under the truck.
Yeah, but you couldn't save Aerith in the original. She had to die. That was
her destiny.
That was her destiny. That was part of the story. Whereas it seems to be kind of working towards maybe
possibility.
Yeah, because at the end, so not to spoil remake, because I know you're going to play it.
Yeah, I'm going to play it at some point. Possibly during summer.
Yeah, there's a confrontation between Sephiroth and Cloud. It kind of had to happen. It's far too early in the story for like them to actually have met at that point.
Okay.
Because it's not until after they've left Midgard that you first encounter Sephiroth in the original. But it would be weird if the game's main antagonist didn't appear in this game.
Yeah.
So you have a confrontation with him, and it's like a kind of series of boss fights. And I won't mention the ones before it because that is very spoilery. But stalemate at the end. You don't beat him because
obviously
you can't. It's like,
the game's not over.
Yeah, but he's there's a conversation that never happens in the original because they didn't have this confrontation at the time.
Yeah,
they're at the end of the cosmos or something like that, and Sephiroth refers to it as like the edge of destiny or something.
Okay.
And it's weird because he kind of he appears behind Cloud and he's like 7 seconds. Hold on, I'm gonna look up the quote.
Okay.
Just because I'll butcher it if I don't.
Yeah.
So the quote he says, and this is like the last thing he says to you before it disappears, and then Cloud comes back to normal reality and the credits roll. And it's 7 seconds till the end. Time enough for you, perhaps. But what will you do with it? Let's see. And it's odd because no one's sure what the 7 seconds refer to.
Well, it's Final Fantasy VII.
Because people are like, is that how long you'd have to rescue Aerith?
Yeah.
But the end-game events wouldn't track. It would. I don't think he'd have 7 seconds for when Sephiroth comes down and stabs her. So it's it seems like they're. I think what I'm happy about is that it's not invalidating the need to play the original. Because a lot of remasters you kind of have no point to go back to the original.
Yeah.
But remake seems like it's kind of making a case for like play the original because you're actually gonna miss out on some stuff.
Yeah.
It can be played without it. I've played remake.
I mean, that's what I'm planning to do.
Yeah, I've played remake without playing the original. I've only just started it after beating remake, and it tells the story. So,
it's Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Dresses and all.
Yeah. So where they're going with Rebirth, I'm interested in.
Okay.
Mainly because there is, that's where you'll see the kind of repercussions of some of the big changes they've made. Because I think I mentioned that there is one character that is supposed to die in the original who survives, but they make it very clear that this is like an alternate version because there's a mascot that you see throughout the game. For Shinra's army or whatever, and there's like the camera freezes on like a poster of that, and it's a different breed of dog, and so it's not
quite the same.
It's not the same timeline, yeah. So it's like, okay,
things have changed.
Things have changed. But where are you going with that? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that I couldn't believe that they actually announced everything they announced.
Yeah, like you talked to me like before it happened, like, oh, this is what I've heard. I will be very shocked if all these things happen.
Yeah,
and they did.
Because Rumor Mill went crazy, and Rumor Mill predicted
it's never
everything.
right.
No, Rumor Mill's never right, and they got everything right.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there's no way they're gonna announce Crisis Core remake. There's no way they're gonna announce the remake sequel. There's no way they're gonna announce 4 or 5 different things within the one stream because it's only 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They used that 10 minutes very well.
More than the fucking 6 minutes of Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, that was yeah. So end of this year's Crisis Core, which I'm very much looking forward to, and then we have Final Fantasy 16 in summer next year, and then Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth in winter next year.
Nice.
So it's a very packed time.
Yeah, Final Fantasy fans are eating well tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's kind of been the game announcements.
Yeah.
I feel like we've probably missed some stuff. Like I think
Probably.
But if it doesn't stick for us, it means we're not.
I mean, I could talk
interested.
a little bit about Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah, there has been a lot of stuff going on with Sonic Frontiers, and I have to say,
Oh boy.
I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not quite either.
I keep seeing people who are like, "Oh my god, this is what I've wanted for Sonic for a while," and I'm like, people were wanting an open world Sonic game.
I mean, it sort of depends on like the Sonic fan you're looking at, because Sonic fans are notoriously divided as fuck. There is no consensus fandom really when you like look into it.
Yeah.
You've got classic fans, you've got adventure fans, you've got I pointed to myself there.
Yeah.
You've got more modern Boost Formula fans, which
What?
Boost Formula, it's like Sonic Unleashed or Generations.
Okay.
Like those are called Boost Formula games because they use the boost
Okay.
like thing. That's a whole thing, believe me.
I don't think I've played Unleashed, so
I mean-
I haven't played Generations either, actually.
Yeah, well, in Unleashed, Generations, and very much Forces, there's a mechanic where you boost,
Okay.
and that can lead to levels like fast timing. They can be a bit linear, is the thing.
Okay.
Like that's a common complaint, but up until Forces, that was pretty much that could be negated. Like
Yeah.
Generations did it pretty well. Unleashed had a lot of different variety, along with the Werehog, which I will not talk about. Forces is the one where it literally just became press X to win,
Fair enough.
or whatever the boost button is on your controller.
Yeah,
Because it was that linear.
I definitely didn't play Forces.
I didn't play Forces either. It's cool.
I have seen it on sale so many times
I have no
for fantastic prices, and I'm like,
urge. I'm a Sonic fan. I have no urge.
It's weird. I like the original games, but not much of the kind of newer stuff kind of grabs me in any way. Adventure looks fun, and I do need to play through that eventually because I have them.
If you're gonna do that, and this is a public service announcement from your local Sonic fan, if you're ever playing Sonic Adventure, get the Steam version,
And get the mods.
but get the better SA Sonic Adventure DX mod, because that makes it so much more playable.
Because I've downloaded that off the back of you telling me about it.
And you just got it makes like visually the game looks so much cleaner.
Because it adds back in the is it the Saturn?
The Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast.
Context. I can go full on into this now. So Sonic Adventure 1 was released for the Dreamcast back in 98, 99 over here. And obviously it was using Dreamcast graphics and stuff. It was a hit for the Dreamcast, and it's a good game for the Dreamcast.
Console seller.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Sonic game that was used to sell. Years later, after the Dreamcast died and Sega's console division died, because, well, late 90s Sega history is a whole conversation I'm not going into right now. It would take up a full episode.
That whole era of just consoles in general is a mess.
Yeah. Anyway, Sega's console dreams died, so Sonic moved over as a third-party sort of game series, and that led to, after Sonic Adventure 2 being released first as like on GameCube as like a updated version, they released the first game on GameCube. And
now I get it.
Now you get it?
I get it. Yeah, no, because I was like, why would the Saturn version be higher quality, but GameCube? Yeah. Yep.
GameCube, Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was a very...
Dreamcast, sorry, I said Saturn again.
I know. I mean, it's fair. But yeah, released on the GameCube, updated textures, polygons.
Updated.
I mean, they were updated. Yeah. Changed is
Sure.
probably better.
Yeah.
I mean, I could argue some of them are better. Like, I'd say the models they used for some of the characters are higher quality. Like,
yeah.
Sonic's fingers aren't just blocks; they're actual, noticeable.
Oh, this is kind of like Final Fantasy 13 to 13-2. They no longer have sausage fingers.
Exactly. But there was a lot of other changes as well. Like a lot of the level textures, I'd say, were downgraded,
Right.
and lighting was fucked. Like completely.
Of course.
Infamously in my head, like the final level for like Sonic's story anyway takes place in like one of Eggman's like bases, and it's supposed to be dark and dreary. Everything is so fucking bright in like the GameCube version. It's a lot like Halo 1 Anniversary, almost as bad as
I was about to say,
the
yeah.
lighting is just completely fucked. The mood is just not right, and a lot of the level textures just don't fit as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's subjective,
Uh-huh.
like that part, but to me anyway.
There's a level of objectivity to some of these things, though. I'd
Yeah.
say, like, if you're directly messing up an intentional thing from the original, then
Lighting is definitely objective.
Yeah, you're objectively making a worse product.
Yeah, and there's a whole video, I think it's Cyber Shell, I think the guy's his name, he's went into like this deeply about how the DX port just sort of fucked with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the point. On Steam, the better SADX mod allows you the choice, because it gives you a choice, to add in almost... I think you can add all the Dreamcast textures and models if you want. I leave the models, but it allows the lighting to be fixed.
Yeah.
It keeps like the textures and stuff, and the game looks way better.
Yeah.
Like with the Dreamcast textures, but in like full resolution. It also allows for widescreen support, so you're not stuck with that fucking border that Steam keeps you in for some reason. Sometimes it's not supposed to be fully widescreen, specifically in some cutscenes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because the game would have been designed for 4:3.
Yeah, like surprisingly, gameplay works completely fine.
Oh yeah, I can imagine gameplay does, because like there's gonna be a certain, way you can present all the models without warping them and stretching them, like a lot of games from that era did, where like if you're playing San Andreas, say on the actual PS2, you can go into the settings and change it to widescreen, but it just stretches everything.
Yeah. It was a beautiful era.
Yeah.
But the game works completely fine. Even the in-game cutscenes are fine. You won't notice anything really wrong with them. The FMVs, though, they can be a bit fucky. Because, like, I think some of them are still 4:3.
Right.
But because it's like the rest of the game is widescreen, like, sometimes they'll put models over the FMVs for like certain effects and stuff, and you can see once they go out of like the actual border, they fuck around a lot to like match up to where they're supposed to be later. It's hilarious. But anyway, better SADX is the best way to play like Sonic Adventure 1, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'd heavily recommend anyone wanting to play that game to use that version, because just don't go back unless you're a collector.
That's like on a sort of similar note, I'm just going to put out there, if anyone's wanting to play Final Fantasy 13, why? No, it's a fairly controversial game, and I think a lot of people would be interested to actually play it and see it for themselves.
I mean, I'm kind of interested at some
point. I'd say get the PC port, mainly because, you're negating the 360's version's 3 discs. You're negating the performance, I think, of the PS3 version. I want to say it maybe probably is limited in terms of frame rate, because a lot of games back then were.
Yeah.
You can get unlocked frame rates, and you get better shadow resolution, texture resolution. You can go higher res, because I think the PS3 version is probably 720 by
Most
default, because a lot of games back then were.
Yeah.
But there's also the HD models. Texture pack. There's two texture packs. There's the HD models and there's HD textures. So there's HD models plus and HD textures. It's a bit complicated because you need to go to the Nexus website and download these two mods and like kind of copy some folders into the same ones to install both of them at the same time. Kind of complicated.
Yeah.
Modding
isn't always easy.
Yeah, but basically it fixes a lot of the issues with some of the in-game stuff. Like you get a slightly better presentation in the graphics. It uses the higher quality models from the in-game cutscenes.
I remember you
'cause there's
telling me
also,
about
yeah,
this.
because there's also pre-rendered cutscenes, but there's also, it's weird. From what I recall, Final Fantasy 13 has like 3 different types of cutscenes. So you have the Yakuza style ones where it's like 2 characters talking to each other, and it uses the in-game models. You have bigger cutscenes where it uses higher quality models, but it's still in-engine. And then you have pre-renders.
Which are pre-renders.
Yes. Now, unfortunately, the pre-renders for Final Fantasy 13 suck. The encoding on them is horrible.
Great.
They are blocky as hell.
Fantastic.
And there's just nothing you can do about that. I mean, some people have tried to re-encode them and fix that, but, you know, it's an inherent source issue, so re-encoding it's not going to do anything. So, download those. You'll get a slightly, you know, visually more appealing... Slightly. You won't have the terrifying sausage fingers, at the very least. You'll have slightly higher quality in-game models as well. It'll be just a little bit nicer to look at. There's a few, like, you get a couple of options for Lightning's model, actually. Where there's...
McQueen?
You get, like, a very high quality model, but... You can't use the hair from that model. Well, you can, but it gives you the option because the hair's static. It doesn't move. And I'm like, okay.
Okay then, yeah.
I just left that one off. But yeah, so if we're going for mod recommendations, I'd say go for that. It gives you just a bit... Since it can take more advantage of the PC, you know, specs.
Yeah.
You know, go for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. What?
I was still talking about Sonic.
Yeah, sorry, on you go.
But yeah, SADX is better mod. SA1's whole history of ports is pretty interesting because it went from Dreamcast.
Yeah.
And then it was ported to GameCube as a sort of director's cut. That's what the DX
The DX is for, yeah.
And Sonic Adventure DX. That was then ported to Xbox Live and PS and PlayStation Network in 2010.
Oh my god.
And we're not done yet.
Oh god.
And that particularly was ported to Steam.
Oh god, it's like a 3-port stack.
Exactly. So if you're downloading on Steam and you need to get the best version of the game from mods, you have to play a port of a port
of a port. Jesus.
It's such a Frankenstein's mess at that point, and it's no wonder the Steam version runs and looks as it does.
Yeah. Oh my god. You know, that's almost like if they released Final Fantasy VII on Switch by porting the PS4 version to the PC version to the PS4, then porting that to to the Switch.
Yeah.
Why? It's such a roundabout. Did they lose the source code?
I don't know.
Because a lot of games from that era, they have a story of like, we lost the source code.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because I think that's what happened with Silent Hill 1 and 2.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I know it happens for a lot of games.
Yeah.
I've heard that story before.
Because that's why the Silent Hill 2 remaster for 360 and PS3 is notoriously fucked. Because it's like a beta build of the game. It's like unfinished.
Ah, okay. That's not a good flag.
Yeah, but they didn't have the source code, so there wasn't a whole lot they could do.
Game preservation needs to be taken a lot more seriously.
It really does. Yeah, for sure.
For a lot of reasons, especially in the digital age that we're in.
Yeah. It's good that we're getting kind of like mini consoles for some of that, but you know, those have...
They have their own flaws.
Yeah, they have their own limitations, like, you know, game lineup in general can be lackluster.
PlayStation 1 Mini.
Yeah, I don't count that because I don't think it even could run half the games anyway. Because all I heard was like complaints about the performance, and also didn't support a DualShock controller.
Fuck off. That's just so dumb.
Yeah. I could be wrong with that, but I think that was one of the big sticking points.
If it's true, that's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So, similar thing happens at Sonic Adventure 2, because that got a GameCube enhancement, which actually was an enhancement, bar maybe the cutscenes.
Yeah.
The cutscenes...
Gotta make it fit on that mini disc. Well,
it's
not
not.
mini
It's not
discs,
just
all
that
CD.
quality-wise. It's that they've changed certain things as
Oh,
well.
okay.
Like in the Dreamcast version, to go into the story a little bit, Sonic Adventure 2's magnificent story, which I'm not recapping again because holy fuck. But there's one point where like Rouge, because she's revealed to be like a secret agent working against Eggman, even though like a double agent for him. And at one point she finds like a computer screen on like one of his bases, and the way it's edited, like, because she's looking for Master Emerald like pieces, because that was destroyed at one point. Don't ask. She's looking for them, but she also spots that Sonic is in the space as well. And the way it's edited in the original, it's that like, oh, she noticed Sonic, and then she saw Master Emerald pieces, and she was like, well, I'll go get them, and then I'll go get the Master Emerald pieces as well.
Okay.
If I'm forgetting like the way this like actually flows, I'm sorry. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough.
On the GameCube version, though, they've re-edited it and they've changed some of the effects on the screen to look like she doesn't notice Sonic at all.
Oh.
Like the Sonic video sort of just pops in at the bottom corner instead of being like half the screen in the original. And then she just suddenly decides, I'm gonna get Master Emerald pieces now.
Oh, okay.
Again, I'm pretty sure I'm probably messing something about this
Yeah,
up.
but it's close enough.
But like that sort of general thing as well.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. There's another one as. Oh wait, no. I think I remember now. What actually happened is that she found like a newspaper like clipping like on this like the Eggman recorded on his screen that talks about Shadow's prototype version, which is what ends up being the final boss of the game, by the way. Yeah. And like in the original, it's like this big like screen. You can see a picture of what the final boss ends up being and all that. That's completely removed.
Oh.
That and any mention to like her finding that is completely cut out for reasons unknown to me.
Oh, that's bizarre.
Yeah, so it's a little disjointed. And then at the end of the Dark Story version, there's another change where like Eggman's gotten all the Chaos Emeralds. He's putting it in the giant fuck you laser that he's got to strike Earth.
To piss on the moon.
Exactly. Oh, I hope people have watched the Snapcube version.
Oh, if you've not seen the Snapcube fandom, go watch it.
Yeah, go watch that right now. It's the best way to experience Sonic Adventure 2. But he's put it in, lights going on, red lights are like blaring, like the screen comes up like, I think in the original it's danger, implying something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Like the machine's going not right, something isn't supposed to be the way he's going. But in the battle version, like the GameCube version, it just comes up warning, which is a lot more vague, and it doesn't really convey the fact that something's gone wrong here, which would play into the final story when we realize Eggman's grandfather rigged it so that it would actually destroy like the actual Earth and not what Eggman wanted, which was just to threaten everyone.
Oh, okay.
Sonic Adventure 2's story is fantastic.
God damn. Honestly, when you brought up Eggman's grandfather, all I could think of was Sonic Destruction. Where it's like his Eggman's dad, and then he just starts calling Eggman dad, and it's like,
Egg Dad.
what? What's going on here? Whose dad is who?
Always, we're purely here just to promote Snapcube stuff now. Best way to experience anything Sonic related.
Yeah, for context, Sonic Destruction is like a AI generated script
that they sort of talk like dub.
They read
through.
They do a table read, I think is the best way.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it.
Where they voice the characters. Most of them normally voice, I think.
Yeah.
There's a few who aren't
there because of controversies that happened actually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't think I'll tell you here.
Okay, fair enough.
Because that's a whole other story.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Let's swiftly.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, let's swiftly pull the handbrake and fucking initial D drift into something else.
Exactly.
Hey, post-production Rebel here. So basically this episode was very long, and we realised when we finished recording it that the second half is very much different from the first. Still about video games, but we're opting to split it into, just for sanity of length. So this is the end of part 1, I guess. I mean, it's just 2 different episodes at this point. But if you've enjoyed listening to this, thank you. That's not normally how I end the episode. when I don't have someone in front of me, it's kind of weird to do this. So yeah, thank you for listening to this episode of Nap. You can come back for the other half of this one where we talk about Halo in 2 weeks as usual. So yeah, bye.